Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Paul's Sports Takes. It's currently Tuesday, 26th, so the day after Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you that celebrated. And Sunday night, on Christmas Eve, the New England Patriots gave this 19-year-old man the greatest Christmas gift of all, and that it was a very, very entertaining, somewhat stupid, but awesome 26-3 victory over the Denver Broncos. This game had every stupid thing you could think of and every really cool thing you could think of. There was a lot of good. There was some bad. Like I said, there was some stupid, some really funny bad stuff. But overall, it was a great game. The Patriots won. We're at 4-11 now. We fell to the fourth overall pick in the draft, which that kind of stinks. But I'm not upset in the slightest that we won this game because it was an awesome game, and let's get into it. So on the injury front this week, we had a lot of injuries this week. Connor McDermott, Rondre Stevenson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jabril Peppers, and Hunter Henry were all out for this game. So at left tackle, we were cycling Trent Brown and Varian Lowe in. But Varian Lowe played most of the snaps. And then Cole Strange was out as well because he's out for the rest of the season. So at left guard, James Ferentz started the game, but he played, I think, 4 snaps total. So it was Antonio Mafi at left guard for the rest of the game, which is pretty miserable, and that definitely showed in this one. But we were coming into this game. I mean, we have nothing to lose at this point in the season, but we were playing a team that has a lot to lose in the Denver Broncos because they were 7-7 coming into this one, still in the thick of a very interesting AFC wildcard race that we'll talk about a little bit later. They had everything to play for, and after losing this one, they are basically eliminated from playoff contention. So it was kind of nice to do that to them, apart from just winning a game in general. The game starts, we get the ball first, and on our first offensive snap of the game, James Ferentz and Valerian Lowe, so the left side of our offensive line, both get destroyed. Mostly James Ferentz. Like, we run play action, and as soon as Zappe turns around when he gets to the back of his drop back, he basically has a guy right in his face. He tries getting it out, but he like pump fakes it, and then he's trying to tuck it, and it ends up being a strip sack, and the Broncos recovered it on our 6-yard line. So basically the worst start imaginable. Like I said, this play, not really a whole lot Zappe could have done here. This is mostly completely on James Ferentz. And the thing is, even if Ferentz would have held up, Valerian Lowe got beat really badly too, so it probably wouldn't have mattered. But it might have not been a strip sack if the guy that Lowe was blocking would have gotten the sack instead. But yeah, it's just a wonderful, wonderful start to the game. The defense does their job. They get a goal line stand here because the Broncos ran 2 plays and then they threw one. And on third down from like the 3 or 4, Mac Wilson almost got a pick in the end zone. It really looked like he got it, but it ended up being ruled incomplete. And then on fourth down, Javonte Williams, the Broncos running back, he had a touchdown and he kind of just, I think he tripped over his lineman. So he had a touchdown, but he goes down. And the defense, this was in like the first 90 seconds of the game. We fumble, the Broncos get the ball on the 6-yard line, and they don't score on that drive. So it's just very wild start to this one. On our next drive, we go 3 and out. And so this one, we kind of started from like our 2-yard line. So just as bad of starting field position as you could get. We go 3 and out. On third down, Zappe misses Pop Douglas on a route where he did get open on Pat Surtain, but Zappe was just so sped up that like the pressure wasn't even there yet. But it's kind of what we saw with Mac towards the end of when he was playing, where he's just going through things way too fast because he doesn't trust his O-line at all. So he had the opportunity to sit there for another beat, make the throw, and convert, but he just rushed it a little bit. We end up punting. Not the worst thing in the world, because at least it wasn't like a safety or anything. The Broncos are starting this next drive at our 46-yard line, because when you're punting from the back of your end zone, usually it doesn't go very far. So their first 2 drives started at the 6 and the 46, not putting our defense in good positions. But once again, they come up big here. They force a 3 and out on third down. They went with a deep shot to Courtland Sutton, who he's basically been a big chunk of the Broncos offense this year, has just been him making the wildest contested catches you'll ever see. And so they go for a deep ball with Miles Bryant one-on-one against him. And Bryant gets a really nice coverage rep here. It ends up getting a pass breakup. Really solid play from him. He was okay this game. He had a couple plays towards the end that were really bad and really Miles Bryant-esque. But that part of it is us asking him to do way more than we should because of injuries and stuff. But as a whole, he didn't play that bad. This play was really nice. And on this play, Courtland Sutton got, I think, a concussion, some sort of head injury, where he missed the rest of the. This was his last snap he played on the Broncos' second drive of the game. So terrible to see that. You obviously, players' health is the most important thing in the game of football. But it is a little beneficial for us with they're losing their best receiver like 3 minutes into the first quarter. On these first 4 drives, both offenses totaled -4 yards of offense. A lot of that is the fumble on our first play was like -16 yards, but still no first downs and -4 total yards between both teams' first 2 drives each. It's definitely not an indicator of how this game would end up. But like if you saw that happen to start the game and you tell someone this game will end up being 26-23, nobody would believe you. This drive was starting at our 15, and Kevin Harris got 3 straight runs, and we went 3 and out and punted again. The punt after this drive where we go 3 and out is returned to the 25. Really good return from there. Punt return Marvin Mims. Behringer ends up knocking him out of bounds. So it looks like Pharaoh Brown was behind him, so it probably wouldn't be like a touchdown saving tackle, but you never really want to see your punter tackling the returner because that usually means it's a really good return. And this is just more phenomenal field position for the Broncos. Their average start field position on their first 3 drives was like our 25-yard line, which is just putting your defense in terrible situations over and over and over again. And on their next drive, they actually do score a touchdown here. There's nothing really to say about this drive. It's just 5 plays for 25 yards, and they score. It's your typical short field touchdown drive. Javonte Williams ends up getting, I think it was like a 3-yard rushing touchdown. So they go up 7-0. But honestly, with how literally everything had gone wrong to this point in the game for our offense, 7-0 is not at all as bad as it could have been. Our next drive, we actually do start to get some offense going. It's a pretty decent response drive. There's a couple nice little passes to Zeke to kind of get the ball rolling. Zappe takes a sack to make it 2nd and 20. You weren't feeling good about that, but then on 2nd and 20, he's able to hit Jalen Reagor down the sideline for a 28-yard gain, and it was just a great play by Zappe. He gives a little shoulder fake to Pop Douglas in the flat to get the corner to bite down, and then he hits Reagor over the top. Perfect throw, 28-yard gain, pretty good stuff. That would be the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, Zappe barely missed Zeke. We were at like about the 20, I think, right now, and he like barely missed Zeke on a little check down in the flat that probably would have ended up being a touchdown. But it was just a little bit. Zeke got a hand on it, but not enough. It would have been a really good catch if he would have been able to hang on to it. So a little bit his fault, a little bit Zappe's fault. And then on 3rd down, we're forced to go underneath. Don't pick up the conversion. But Chad Ryland knocks in a 33-yard field goal, and so early in the second, it is 7-3 Broncos. Broncos, on their next drive, get a couple good gains on the ground to get out to a little bit past midfield, and then from about our 45-yard line, they throw it to Javonte Williams in the flat, and Jelani Tavai makes a great play to get out there and force a fumble. And then on the recovery, I don't know how they ruled this our ball, because it absolutely 100% looked like the Broncos like left guard, one of their offensive linemen falls on it, and then after he's already on the ground, one of our defensive tackles, Jeremiah Farms, rips it out of his hands, which absolutely it looks like that's what happened, but the officials disagreed, and so they gave us the ball, which is not a good call, but I'm not complaining. Luckily, it didn't impact the game that much because we would end up going 3 and out. Duh. So we go 3-and-out and we punt it right back to them. And then on their next drive, the Broncos picked up a couple first downs, again, to kind of get the drive going. But then one of their offensive linemen took an unnecessary roughness call that set them up at 1st and 25, and that's kind of a drive killer. And then on 3rd and 12, Mac Wilson continued. If you don't remember, in the fourth quarter last week, he had, I think, a sack and a half, basically lined up as an edge rusher. And it was the same idea for this player. He was lined up at edge, got around the Broncos right tackle, and got it was a strip sack, but the Broncos just recovered it. So it ended up but it was on 3rd and 12. So drive killer anyway. They end up punting. On our first play of the next drive, we get Pharaoh Brown lined up against an edge rusher in coverage. And so Pharaoh Brown beats him by like a step or two. It's just a nice, easy seam shot for 20 yards to start the drive, which is good. That's what you love to see. Pharaoh Brown is so good in his tight end 3 role. It's crazy. We get a couple more nice plays to get into the red zone. And then we have a 3rd and 6 from just outside the 20. And Bailey Zappi makes a nice play to get out of the pocket, and he scrambles for it. And he picked up the first down that would have gotten us inside the 15. But guess who is called for a hold? It's Vidarian Lowe, obviously. And it's a very clear and blatant hold. Like, he has the guy from behind like this. But it's another one, kind of similar to Connor McDermott's last week that negated the touchdown, where you don't really need to hold in that situation because Zappi was already rolling out, and he was already past the defender that got held. So that's just kind of an annoying one. We ended up, so then it was 3rd and I think 12 or something. We end up not converting there. And then with like 30 seconds left, we end up going for a 47-yard field goal. And Chad Ryland misses this so badly. It ended up being at least like 8 yards wide right. Like it was just never even close. But believe me, we'll talk more about Chad Ryland by the end of this game. But yeah, big time miss there. And then the Broncos suddenly have pretty good field position, and 30 seconds left is enough time to get like a couple plays, especially because I think they had 2 timeouts. And they did. They hit a couple underneath routes to get into not comfortable, but borderline field goal range. And then as time expired, they went for a 57-yard field goal. And Will Lutz, their kicker, was just a little left on it. So we are going to halftime at 7-3 in a half that had a lot of really bad football. And obviously at 7-3, not a lot of scoring. So the Broncos got the ball first in the second half. And on the first play, the third quarter, big sign of things to come this quarter, Christian Barmore gets a sack. He just blows by the Broncos left guard, gets a sack, and then he hits him with the Matt Judon celebration. And it made me tear up. It brought a little tear to my eye because I miss Matt Judon so much. But Christian Barmore is so good, and this was just the tip of the iceberg. That sack ends up forcing the Broncos to go 3-and-out, so we get the ball right back. For our first offensive snap of the second half, completely different story from our first offensive snap of the first half. This time, Bailey Zappi steps up in the pocket, evades pressure, finds Pop Douglas downfield for a beautiful, beautiful deep ball connection, 41 yards. I think this might be like the biggest air yardage completion of the season for us. Like, it was 41 yards entirely in the air. Pop made a phenomenal midair adjustment to go up, falling backwards, grab this ball. Just a beautiful play by him. Love seeing that kind of way to use his athleticism in ways to get to the ball as opposed to just getting open. Big play from him, and that's kind of what we've been wanting to see him do. Big things other than just yards after catch. So I love Pop Douglas so much. And this was a really good throw by Zappi. Really nice play. Like I said, for him to make that throw even happen by evading the rush. And excellent start to the second half. A play or two later, Pop Douglas gets open on a filthy, filthy whip route. He just goes in, fakes like one step inside, and then turns the other way. And with like one move, creates like 2 yards of separation. goes for an easy 14 yards, 15 yards, down to the 15-yard line. And then a play or two after that, Bailey Zappi finds Zeke open in the flat. And it's just very quick, just get the ball out to a playmaker, see what he can do. And what he does is he goes complete Dallas Zeke, hurdles a guy, and then beats the rest of the defense to the pylon, extends over the goal line, gets the touchdown. Just like that, Patriots are up 9-7. And it would stay 9-7 because Chad Ryland doinked the extra point. The Broncos' next drive, it's not a 3-and-out. I think they got one first down, but they do end up punting. On third down, Josh Uche makes a play, beats a little chip block from the tight end, and then gets around the right tackle, sacks Russ. Love to see Uche he's really come along the last couple weeks, and he hasn't necessarily been getting the same sacks he was at the end of last year, but he's getting a lot of pressure and creating a lot of uncomfortable situations for opposing quarterbacks. And so that's good for him. I still don't know how I would feel about re-signing him this offseason because he's probably going to take a pretty penny. And he hasn't shown to be the most consistent player, especially when he's not playing opposite one of the best pass rushers in the league with Matt Judon. So I don't know how we're going to navigate that, but we'll talk about that more in the offseason. We go 3-and-out on our next drive, and Pop, he had a really big play right in his hands on third down here. He was running like a little crossing route, but when the ball hit his hands, he had no one within 10 yards of him, and he just straight up drops it. Really unfortunate kind of black mark on what otherwise was a phenomenal game from him. But, those things happen. We haven't had that many. We've had like some route running mistakes from him, but not a lot of those kind of like drops, fumbles, like rookie mistakes like you would traditionally think of. So that's bound to happen sometimes. It's a good thing that we won the game and didn't end up costing us the game. Really good punt for Bryce Behringer on this one. Kind of flips the field, pins the Broncos back in their own territory. And the Broncos go 3-and-out because Christian Barmore. That's it. That's all I have to say. On second down, he beats his man, forces Russ out of the pocket, almost gets a sack, but Russ ends up throwing it away. On third down, Russ cannot escape, and Barmore gets a sack down. He sacked him down at the 2 or 3 yard line. If Christian Barmore would have gotten a safety, I would have done insane things. But he just gets a sack on third to make it 4th and 20 or something. So they end up punting, and he single-handedly has wrecked this third quarter, and it's amazing. Because they got sacked at the 3, it's not a great punt. Miles Bryant returns it to their 41. So now we're starting with the really good field position, and guess what? We capitalized on the really good field position. On our first play of this drive, we go with a deep ball to Devontae Parker, and it was a ballsy move because Devontae Parker was one-on-one with Pat Surtain, who's one of the best one-on-one lockdown man-to-man corners in the league. And it's just a great throw from Zappi, a great play from DP. It's really nice after how terrible he was the first 10 weeks of the season to see more than 10 weeks, to see him kind of stepping up the last couple weeks. It also would have been nice to see him be playing like this earlier on in the season. What if he hadn't dropped that ball against the Raiders? But he's been playing really well. It was a really solid game for him today. Won a couple of nice contested jump balls, which is his job. That's what he's made his career doing. And so it's good to see those kind of finally come to fruition now. So that completion got us down to the 11. And then I'm pretty sure it was the very next play, Antonio Mafi got called for a hold, which put us we were at the 11, and then this put us at 1st and 20 and outside the red zone. And it's just, another one where we've had so many holding penalties in the red zone. It's the third one in the last game and a half to this point. So it's just an annoying trend. But luckily, this one was on first down instead of third down, so we were able to overcome it a little bit better. We had a tunnel screen to Tyquan Thornton for 11, and then on 3rd and 9 from the 11, another nice play by Zappi stepping up in the pocket to avoid pressure, and a good route by Gesicki to get open in the back of the end zone behind all the Broncos defenders, just on a level right behind them. And then it's a great throw from Zappi to find him in the back of the end zone, wide open, layer it over one of the Broncos safeties, touchdown Mike Gesicki. He did something for like the first time since the Bills game. All of a sudden, it is a entirely different game. And you're thinking, wow, do we actually have a chance to win this game against like a pretty solid team? Like, that's incredible. On the ensuing kickoff, the strangeness of this game reaches a crescendo where Marvin Mims, who earlier in the game set up the Broncos' only points so far with like a 50-yard punt return, he initially muffs the kickoff, so he drops it, and then he picks it up and he's running with it, and Marte Mapu hunts him down, and at like the Broncos like 9 or 8 yard line. So even if the play just ended here, getting tackled at your 8 on a kick return is horrible. But he didn't get tackled because Marte Mapu forced a fumble. So he muffs the punt, picks it up, returns it 8 yards, gets it stripped. Marte Mapu pokes it out, and then Cody Davis falls on it and rolls into the end zone. And all of a sudden, we have a kickoff touchdown, which is one of the rarest and strangest plays in football. And all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, it goes from 9-7 to, in like 7 seconds, it's 23-7. Broncos would not fumble this next kickoff. And on the last play of the third quarter, Christian Barmore closes out his magnum opus with his third sack of the quarter. This one was also, like Mac Wilson's, a strip sack that the Broncos ended up recovering. But that was on third down. It forces a 3-and-out. 3 sacks in a quarter from an interior defensive lineman is just not something that happens. And like, he was so close to getting a 4th sack on the play right before his 2nd sack. Like, it's just, he's so good. And if he doesn't get a Pro Bowl spot this year, I'm actually going to lose my mind. The Broncos punt after their 3-and-out was the first play of the fourth quarter. And then we promptly go 3-and-out as well, give the ball right back to them. They pick up a couple first downs, and then they were, I think, at like the 40, just shy of midfield. And Russ gets out, extends a play, and then he finds Marvin Mims, the aforementioned punt returner / kick returner, finds him downfield for 47 yards. It was a nice play by Russ, kind of similar, honestly, to the play to Pop Douglas. It was a pretty similar catch as well. But nice play, got him down to about the 10. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure on the coverage for this one. Juwan Bentley ended up being the closest defender, which is not what you want to have happen. You don't want your big middle linebacker to be covering one of the fastest players on their team 50 yards from the line of scrimmage. But the film was not all out yet at the time of recording this, so I haven't been able to get a great view of that play. I think Alex Austin might have been in coverage initially, but I'm not sure how that one worked out. Anyway, they end up getting like a 50-yard gain on that one, and then a couple plays later, they're in the end zone. It was on a 3rd and 1 from like the 3-yard line, and this one, it's just Russ is kind of rolling out, and it's kind of just a scramble drill in the end zone. Really no realistic chance for Alex Austin on this touchdown because he's coming from behind on a much larger tight end. And so Russ, he just put it up there. The tight end went up and got it. Out big man, our corner. And they score. They end up getting the 2-point conversion as well on a little tunnel screen, reminiscent of the 2-point conversion in Super Bowl 51. So that is 23-15 with about 8:30 left in the fourth quarter. And this is when you start to think, is there a way that we can choke this game? Like, you're still up 8, so you're still up a touchdown and 2-point conversion. 8:30 left, and your offense just came off a quarter where they scored 20 points. Or the team scored 20 points, because 6 of those were from special teams. But you're coming off one of your best quarters of offense of the season. And really all you need to do is just get one kind of solid drive to run some clock down, maybe get a field goal or something, and then you should feel pretty comfortable out winning this one. Would it surprise you if I told you that we went 3-and-out? It should not at all. It should not surprise you. We go 3-and-out, and at this point, I'm like, okay, we're losing this game. That is a definite now. The Broncos, after we go 3-and-out and give the ball back to them, I think there were like 6 minutes left or something when we punted it back. Shaun Wade almost makes a phenomenal pick in the end zone. He had Jerry Jeudy one-on-one, and he had both hands on it, and he was diving backwards, and it would have been such a cool interception if he would have been able to hang on to it, but it would have been a really hard interception, so I don't blame him too much for not being able to finish it. This drive is the one I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about Myles Bryant having a couple of bad plays. Early on in the drive, he has a missed tackle on Jerry Jeudy, which Jerry Jeudy's one of the more shifty open field receivers in the league, so it's somewhat excusable, but pretty bad with. The less excusable one comes on a 3rd-and-10 near about midfield, where Bryant had a guy dead to rights, like 3 yards short of the sticks, and then he just doesn't even really make a move or anything. He just kind of starts running the other way, and Bryant completely misses the tackle. They end up picking up a first down, keeping the drive alive. Later on in the drive, Christian Barmore, we love him, he drew a holding penalty that made it 2nd-and-20 from, I think that pushed him back to like the 35 maybe. And at that point, you're feeling pretty good about it because the Broncos offense hasn't been super dynamic picking up like chunk plays. And you're like, okay, 2nd-and-20, like that's not a good down and distance. It did not matter at all. They picked up 14 plays after Jerry Jeudy beat Myles Bryant on 2nd-and-20. And then on 3rd down, Shaun Wade has a really bad missed tackle on a Broncos receiver that honestly I had never heard of before tonight, Johnson. So that is another play where you're like, man, if he could have made a phenomenal play on the pick earlier in the drive, he wouldn't have had this really bad play on his film where he misses a tackle on 3rd down on a play that ends up being a game-tying touchdown because he was the last guy on the outside. Jalen Mills, if it was 2 yards farther away from being a touchdown, Jalen Mills would have been able to force the guy out of bounds, but he gets just inside the pylon, ends up scoring to make it 21-23, and then they got the 2-point conversion, which tied it up with 2:53 left in the game. So the Broncos had come all the way back after looking completely dead. I'm pretty sure they ended up with negative yards in the 3rd quarter. And then they score 16 points in the span of less than 6 minutes to tie this one up. And then for the 3rd drive in a row, and now every drive of the 4th quarter to this point, we go 3-and-out. And Behringer had a really good punt that ended up being a touchback. So we were punting from like our 25, punt it, even though it didn't get down, it would have been a touchback. Huge field position flipping punt, especially when you're at this point of the game where you need a field goal really quickly. But it ends up getting called back for, I'm pretty sure it was an illegal formation penalty. So he has to re-kick, and this one is not anywhere close to as good. It goes out of bounds on the 39-yard line. So that ends up being a 19-yard penalty. And the Broncos are starting their next drive with 1:38 and 3 timeouts from their 39-yard line. And so they needed their kicker barely missed from 57 earlier. So they need to get probably to about the 35 to be comfortable, which is about 25 yards, which is completely doable. But our defense comes up big, forces a 3-and-out, and gets us the ball back. And now we have a chance to go win the game with 58 seconds left, 1 timeout, starting from our own 19. Our first 2 plays of this drive really does not look like we're playing to win the game because we go back-to-back runs. And I understand the logic of it and just trying to make sure the Broncos have to use their timeouts and that they don't have any time to come back and win the game in regulation. At least send it to overtime, theoretically get both teams a real chance with plenty of time on the clock. But I was really, really upset about this. Like, I was sitting with my family watching the game. Like, we were all playing a game, and I was watching the game on my phone. And that happened, and I was just so mad. And I explained to them, I was like, they're not playing to win. they are simply playing for overtime in a situation where 50 seconds, 58 seconds, when you have a timeout and you only need a field goal, is a world of time. Even though Chad Ryland is terrible, like, the offense has been moving the ball tonight, not the last 3 drives, but they've been doing something. Like, just give them a chance. And we weren't doing that at all, and it was making me viscerally angry. So then, much to my surprise, on 3rd and 4, we once again dial up a deep shot to Devontae Parker against Pat Surtain. Like, the fact that we got one on him, I was like, that's awesome. I did not think that was going to happen. But then we go to it again, and this is actually a really smart throw by Zappe because it was straight one-on-one. And the first time we went this route to DP, setting up the touchdown to Mike Gesicki, he just blew by Surtain and then caught it over the top. So Surtain was playing with the idea of he's not getting behind me again. So Zappe just underthrows a little. And so it's kind of similar to the play they had on 3rd down last week, where I was like, I don't know if Zappe meant to do that, but this one looked much more intentional. And so he throws a little short. And so Devontae Parker just stops. And then Pat Surtain's behind him, so he has position on him, catches it at about midfield. So it was like a 27-yard gain, I think it was. And that was very exciting to see because that showed, okay, we are playing to win. We were playing a little conservatively, just trying to get them to use their timeouts. But then we were actually making a concerted effort to win the game. After that, that play got us just short of midfield. And then we go 2 plays, one to Zeke and one to Mike Gesicki that picks up about 10 yards. And that sets up a 56-yard field goal for Chad Ryland with 7 seconds left. And Chad Ryland is the same man who already earlier this year in the Giants game missed a field goal that was well within his range and could have sent us to overtime. He is right around like the 65% mark on the season on field goals. In this game, he had already missed a 47-yarder, terribly wide right, and missed an extra point. And we trot him out there with 7 seconds left from 56 yards for, I'm pretty sure it's a career long. I think he might have hit one from 56 earlier this year. He does have a strong leg. It's just wildly inaccurate. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, we're going to overtime. There's no way this goes in. Dead center from 56 would have been good from like 65. It was a rocket right down the middle. Goes through with 2 seconds left on the clock, 26-23. Broncos go for a Hail Mary from their 25-yard line. Nothing happens. The Patriots win and move to 4-11 and probably kill the Broncos' playoff hopes. This game was awesome. There was a lot of dumb, but it was awesome. Okay, let's talk about some game notes and takeaways for this one. The O-line was really bad. Obviously, it's tough to be too hard on them given the sheer amount of like flip-flopping and slotting guys in and out they've been doing all year, especially in the last couple weeks. But they were really bad. Varian Lowe is horrible. Trent Brown wasn't great today on the snaps he got. Antonio Mafi's really bad. James Ferentz got like 4 snaps, but almost tanked the game for us. The right side was actually pretty solid today. Onwenu got beat a couple times, but there wasn't anything too egregious. David Andrews was solid. City So was solid. But pass protection was really an issue tonight. Once again, we were not running the ball effectively at all. And a lot of that goes to the offensive line. Zeke just did not have a lot of holes to run through. So yeah, pretty poor performance from the offensive line for the second week in a row. But this week it had much less of an effect on Bailey Zappi than it did the week before. He kind of played great in this one. He missed some easy, short to lower intermediate throws. That's just the kind of quarterback he is. He is not super accurate on those layups sometimes, which is not great because there were a lot of those 3-and-outs that happened in this game kind of did fall on him in those situations, but he played more mistake-free than he has the past. He didn't have anything nearly as terrible as that pick he had last week. And in a game where the defense was so solid, just trying to avoid like I said, the fumble on the first play, maybe he should have just tucked that one and not tried to make a play, but you can't blame him too much for literally like looking up from his drop back and there's a dude like a foot away from him. But yeah, he played really solid day. He made some really good, really clutch throws downfield. The touchdown to Gesicki was a really nice play, and he continued to show some very promising things when he finds ways to extend plays and move around in the pocket. In the receiver room, there was a lot of good things this game from both Devontae Parker and Pop Douglas. Obviously, Pop's drop was really bad, but he had a couple really nice routes. The big play at the start of the second half kind of set the tone for that whole third quarter and was a really nice catch on his part. And then Devontae Parker just made the tough catches when we needed him to, which is something that was sorely lacking at the beginning of the season, but he's really picked that up the last couple weeks. Mike Gesicki I'm pretty sure he only ended up with 2 catches this week, and one of them was a touchdown. But with Hunter Henry out, with how involved he had been the last couple weeks, that's definitely something you would have liked to see Gesicki end up with more than 2 catches. I'd say, as a whole, his season has still been pretty disappointing. But the touchdown was a nice play by him, so we'll take it. On the defensive side of the ball, it was a really good game. Obviously, the goal line stand at the very start of the game was huge. And really, a lot of the issues came from depth corners that are playing way more than they should be just because of injuries. Like, most of the big plays that happened for the Broncos happened because of either Miles Bryant, Shaun Wade, or Alex Austin. Like, those 3 players should not be normal, regular players for an NFL defense. So when those are kind of our big issue players, and they really like I said, most of the Broncos' comeback was off of targeting those players in the passing game. So if that's the one big issue that you take away from the game, that's okay. The pass rush was great all game, and I'm just gonna say it again. Christian Barmore is so good. He needs to be a Pro Bowler, and he needs to get serious All-Pro consideration because it wasn't a bad start by any means. It was somewhat of a slower start to the season for him, but man, oh man, has he been playing phenomenally the last 2.5 months. And this game, he had 3 sacks, I think 4 tackles for loss, a couple other pressures that weren't sacks, and he was just a monster. It is legitimately one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen, particularly from a defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman, but maybe one of the best defensive performances I've seen from an individual player ever. He was just dominant. And he drew the holding penalty in the 4th too. It's Christian Barmore. He's so good. And he gave me the best Christmas present ever. Okay, this week we've got the Bills on the schedule, and this game I don't think is going to go like the last Bills game. The Bills have everything to play for right now because they're the 6th seed right now, and they're a game ahead of a big gaggle of 8 and 7 teams, the AFC, that I'll get into in a second. But they have everything to play for. They have seeding, positioning. They still have a chance at winning the AFC East. So they are not going to give up at all, or give anything up, I should say. Obviously, they're not going to give up. Yeah, I don't think we're going to win this one. I think we have a chance to give a pretty solid effort. Maybe give them a little scare if we can force Josh Allen into a couple interceptions. But yeah, for as good or as better as we have been playing the last 3 weeks, I still think that right now, the way the Bills are playing, they are several tiers ahead of us. Okay, we have 2 weeks left in the NFL season, and literally like nothing is decided when it comes to the AFC playoff picture. Like it is insane. So I'm gonna go really fast and talk about some of the results from this week, and then I'm gonna talk about the playoff picture and what those results mean. So the Steelers beat the Bengals really badly. Mason Rudolph got in. Jake Browning kind of looked like what we'd expect from Jake Browning. Good for them. The Bills barely beat the Chargers on Saturday night. Scary moments for them because if they lost, you don't love their playoff chances, but they got the win. They're sitting at 9-6 now, and they have some breathing room at least. The Colts lost big to the Falcons, which was very surprising because the Falcons have looked terrible for the last month. But the Colts are still in the playoff race. Right now, they're still the 7 seed. The Lions beat the Vikings to clinch their first division title in 30 years. Good for them. I still don't know how much I would trust them in the playoffs, but good for them for winning their division at least. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they got Trevor Lawrence back, and they just continue their free fall. They lost, I'm pretty sure it was 30-12 to the Bucs. I don't know what their problem is, but they need to figure it out in the last 2 weeks, or else they are going to waste their season. The Cowboys fell to the Dolphins by literally a matter of inches because on the Cowboys' first drive of the game, Tony Pollard got tackled. I don't know how it's entirely his fault for not making this be a touchdown because he had a route to the pylon and then he cuts back in, gets tackled literally like 6 inches short of the goal line, and then the Cowboys fumble a play later. And they lost by 2 points. So if they score that touchdown, they probably win that game. Like it's unfortunate for Cowboys fans. The Dolphins win the fraud ball. I still don't know how much I trust either of those teams. Like I think they're good teams, but against teams like we got Dolphins Ravens on the schedule this week. So that'll be a very interesting one to watch. But yeah, I still like good for the Dolphins for winning that one. It's unfortunate for the Cowboys that they lost that one. I still don't know how much I trust either of them, though. On Monday, on Christmas, the Raiders gave the entire country a wonderful Christmas present by beating the Chiefs in maybe like the worst offensive game the Chiefs have had in the Patrick Mahomes era. Like just really, really bad all around. The Raiders didn't complete a pass after the last pass they completed in this game was with like 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and they still won, which is hilarious. And now the Chiefs, like they're still going to win their division, but they have lots of questions. Not that they haven't had questions before in this season, but this is just like taking it to a whole new level now. And then finally, on Christmas, the Ravens very handily beat the Niners. Good for the Ravens. They've clearly established themselves as the best team in the league right now. There's no way you can say that anyone else is not the best or that anyone else is the best team in the league. But I will say, if I'm a Niners fan, I'm not entirely panicking because from someone who is not a fan of either team, it looks to me like the Niners played as badly as they possibly could have. Like, I don't think you're going to get many games where Brock Purdy throws 4 interceptions, including like one in the red zone, one that sets up a Ravens touchdown from like 6 yards out. Like I obviously like the Ravens were the better team, but I think that the 49ers are never going to play that bad all around again. Okay, finally, let's talk about the playoff picture. So AFC right now, top seed is the Ravens. The Ravens, they play the Dolphins this week. I think they're going to win that one, and I'm pretty sure if they beat the Dolphins, they clinch the 1 seed no matter what happens in Week 18. So I think they'll probably stay at the 1 seed, and then right now the 2 seed is the Dolphins, 3 seed is the Chiefs, and then 4 seed is the Jaguars. We'll see what happens with the Jags because there are a couple other teams in the AFC South that are on here. The Browns right now are the first wild card team at 10-5. The things they've done with Joe Flacco at quarterback are insane, and they like are serious. I don't know if they're Super Bowl contenders necessarily, but they can hang with anyone in the league. The Bills are currently the 6th seed, and then the 7th seed is the Colts right now. And then just outside the Colts, so the Colts, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Bengals are all 8-7. The Steelers and the Bengals, I think, are probably going to lose both of their next 2 games. So I think they're basically out of the playoff picture. And then potentially, depending on what happens with the Jags too, because the Jags could fall out of first place in the AFC South. But if the Jags can figure out a way to remember how to play football again, I guess, you have a potential situation where the Colts and the Texans could be playing in week 18, basically in a 7th seed championship game to see, because they play each other week 18. So you could have them playing basically to decide who gets the 7th seed, because I think they both should theoretically win their their games this week. I think the Texans are playing the Titans, I think, and CJ Stroud could be back. So they should be able to win that one. And then the Colts are playing the Raiders. And I mean, I don't know, because the Colts lost to the Falcons this week and the Raiders just beat the Chiefs. But theoretically, the Colts should be able to beat the Raiders. And so that could set up a very interesting Week 18 game. On the NFC side, you've got some interesting things happening because the Niners are still the 1st seed, but then the Eagles and the Lions are both also at 11-4 right now. The Niners, I think, should win their last 2 games. So they should stay at the top they should stay in the 1 seed there, but anything can happen this year. And so the Eagles are the 2 seed, Lions are the 3 seed, and then right now the Bucks are the 4 seed, and then Cowboys 5. The Rams are the 6th seed right now, and then the Seahawks are the 7th seed. Rams and Seahawks, I believe, are both 8-7, and then there are 3 teams out of the playoff picture right now at 7-8, and that is the Vikings, the Falcons, and the Packers. And the Seahawks, I think, should win their last 2 games. I think they have maybe the Steelers and the Cardinals, I want to say. I don't know. They play 2 teams that are not very good. So I think they should win both of their games. And then, so they should be in the playoffs, theoretically. But then the Rams might be playing the Niners this week. They play someone good. And so I think they're going to lose that game. And then if they win their Week 18 game, theoretically, they should still be in a playoff spot. But I don't know, because the Falcons and the Packers, I think, might both win each of their last 2 games. And then if they both win those, I don't know what's going to happen tiebreaker-wise to see who gets that last 7th seed. Because if the Rams split their last 2 games, and then the Falcons and the Packers both win their last 2 games, they're all going to have the same record. They'll all be 9-8. And I do not know what would happen in that scenario. So there's so many things that are completely undecided right now, and that is just why it has been such an awesome season. And there's been so many weird things happening literally every single week. And the last 2 weeks are going to be awesome. And then this playoffs might be the best playoffs in NFL history. It has that kind of potential right now. All right, everyone. Well, that is week 16. This video I know is absurdly long. I had 2.5 pages of notes just on the game, and then basically another full page on the playoff picture and things like that. So I know this video is going to be really long, but there's just so many things that I had to talk about, and I feel like there was stuff that I would be doing a disservice if I left out. So all I can say is for the next 2 weeks, just try and clear your weekends. There's going to be so much good football to watch, and that's not even including the big bowls coming up at the end of this week, and obviously the CFP games and stuff. There's going to be so much good football. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to watch literally all of it. And we'll see what happens with the Patriots, because I don't know. We've got our Week 18 game is against the Jets, so we could end the season with 5 wins, which seemed completely impossible after we lost 3 games in a row where we allowed a total of 26 points. But yeah, I don't know what to make of this season. I don't know what to make of it if we end up getting a kind of mid draft pick where we can't necessarily get that franchise changing quarterback. I don't know. I'm not rooting for losses. I am happy that we won this game because it was an awesome game and I feel good, and I don't like it when the Patriots lose. But also, I do understand that it's not necessarily in our best interest to win right now. That'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please follow the Instagram at Paul Sports Takes. Happy New Year, because this will probably be my last video of 2023. And I will see you guys next time.